Alrighty, good evening, and thank you all for coming out tonight to support myself and my colleagues as we present on our summer experiences. So as Armand said, my name is Matilda, and I'm a junior business administration major with a concentration in marketing. And my presentation title for today is The Scales to Success. So just a little bit about me, as he stated, I'm originally from Nigeria. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but I've lived the most years of my life in Northern Virginia. And the purpose of my presentation today is to give you insight on what I did for my internship, as well as how I grew both professionally, academically, and personally. So please join me in reliving my summer journey. So just an overview of what I'm going to be covering today. I'll be covering the process to get my internship, the company I interned with, my learning objectives going into my internship, my position in the company, my successes, the challenges I faced and how my EPG abilities helped me to overcome them, the skills I obtained, what I'm going to do moving forward, and my reflection and advice for cohort 14, as well as those who are going to be doing internships in the future. So, moving on. So the process to get my internship was an interesting one because, as with most people, I procrastinated. And so it was fall of my sophomore year, and I had no clue where to go. And so I was pretty confused at that point. Luckily for me, though, I worked in the CTL at that point under Marcus Epps. And so I was ranting to him, essentially, and telling him how I couldn't find an internship. And he recalled that he had two friends who lived in Buffalo who had actually started a marketing agency on their own. And so he called them up, and they said they were willing to have an intern, and that started my actual process of securing my internship. So initially, I had trouble actually getting in contact with my supervisor because email was just not a great means of communication for him. However, after a while, I was able to call him and get in contact with him, and he offered me an interview the next day. And I was shocked and thrown off guard, but I was ready for it. And one of the things that stood out in my actual interview was that he made it known that dealing with ambiguity was going to be something I really had to deal with, and I wouldn't have someone to help me along every single step of the way. And so that was something that really stuck out to me because that was a topic we covered in EPG. And something I did that I really don't recommend to others is that I waited to the last minute, and also I only applied to one internship. And so for those of you who are applying to internships, because you should be applying at this point in the semester, I do recommend applying to multiple internships and getting a gauge, and also using the resources we have on campus, such as the internship department and career development. So moving on to where I actually interned for the summer. So this past summer, I had the privilege and the opportunity to be the first ever intern at a small startup company in Buffalo, New York called Scale Digital Marketing. And what we do is we cover website design and development, we cover content marketing, we cover SEO, and we also cover digital advertising. And so what that means is that businesses and companies come to us and they basically have us reach out to their clientele and their audience. And essentially we go to them and we reach out to them and we generate more traffic, and we also generate more revenue for the company. And so, in turn, what I loved out of my internship was the team that I worked with. And as you can see, we're a pretty small team of about 10 people. However, I love that because I got to see the transparency of the company, and I also got the chance to see the struggles that come with being an entrepreneur and also having a startup company. And for example, with the larger companies, if you have a client that's causing more trouble for your company than they're bringing in revenue, you can easily drop that client. However, with a startup company, you don't necessarily have that luxury. And so that was something I really saw in our company. Also, I love the treatment and the fact that my teammates, they treated me as another team member versus just another intern. So when we had meetings, they valued my opinion versus just seeing me as another intern. So moving on to the actual goals I set before I started my internship. So going to my internship, I had three main goals. The first one was to get experience working in a professional environment, because yes, Bury does have the labor program. However, it's very different from the actual work field and the actual workforce. So that was my first goal. Next was to create great social media and great social content for the company. And lastly was to gain experience with networking and expand my networking skills within the company. So moving on to what I was actually able to accomplish in my internship. So my role in the company actually changed from what I initially thought it was going to be to when I actually started my internship. And that happens often, but in my case, it was because the person who actually started to craft my internship process with Scale actually left the company while still securing my internship. And his idea of what an internship should look like differed from my now supervisor. And so there was that whole, I guess, disconnect and that miscommunication. So I actually ended up a little confused when I started my internship. And so I actually ended up doing a lot of social and collaboration. I got a chance to work with the campaign manager in the company, and that was a great experience for me. And most importantly, I got the chance to do influencer outreach. And what that is essentially every single person in this room has most likely been influenced by influencer outreach. So when you are on Facebook or Instagram and you see someone who is well known in a certain field posting about a certain product or a company, that is the result of influencer outreach. So what I was doing is I was contacting, for example, we had a client that was a major golf company and they sell golf balls worldwide. So I would contact people who are prominent in the golf field and actually have them post about our golf balls or post a review online to help influence people to go to our site or to purchase our golf balls. And that leads me to my next topic of my actual successes within the company. So coming to the company, I let my supervisor know that I didn't just want to take from the company. I didn't just want to learn from them. I wanted to create some kind of value and be impactful in the company. And so I was able to do that in 3 major ways. So firstly, when I came into my internship, I started working on an editorial calendar for the company. And that was a project that spanned the entire period of my internship. And essentially what that is, it's a way for the social person, the campaign manager, and the graphic design person to have a ways of communicating when posting social media for our different clients. So the social person will get the content and the script, and then the campaign manager and the graphic design person will make sure that there's graphics and that it goes along with the campaign that we have set apart for it. Next, I was in charge of finding a way for the company to do digital analysis and data analysis, because coming to the company, all they really did was just look at the data holistically and decide on what was necessary and what posts did well and such. And thank you to my advisor, Dr. Guggenheim, is doing research, I was able to find a better method that would actually help the company to do data analysis. And that was actually an interesting process because my supervisor didn't necessarily know what he wanted from the project itself. And so that was an interesting process to find out how we could actually do something that fit what he envisioned but couldn't necessarily put to words, and something that would actually help the company and be beneficial to all the parties involved. And the last success I had in the company was actually something that was a fruition of my APG ability of recognizing opportunity. So coming to the company, I realized that all our clients had great social media, they had great marketing, but scale as a company was actually suffering in that area. And it looks bad if you're a marketing agency, but you have bad social media and bad marketing. And so my goal for the company was to actually help to create social content. So coming to the company, I began taking pictures of the people in action, of when we had clients come in, I would take pictures of that. And I also began finding filler content, which includes blogs and articles and the sort. And so by the end of my internship, I had provided them with months of social content to last them, that they would actually have that for the time being. Which leads me to my next topic of my challenges. So I definitely loved my internship. However, I did run into certain challenges that made it a different experience. So my first challenge was that when I came into my internship, my boss definitely gave me instructions. However, there was times in which I was completing the job that I was assigned faster than anticipated. So I was left to create work for myself, essentially. And there were also times in which, such as with data analysis, my boss would say, okay, find a way for us to do data analysis, but he wouldn't necessarily give me instructions because he wanted me to include my creativity in the process. And so that was where my EPG ability of engaging complexity and uncertainty came into play. Because I know for a fact that had I not been experienced to ambiguity in doing EPG the whole summer, I definitely wouldn't have been able to complete the projects that were assigned to me. My next challenge was something that I actually realized in Berea. So in doing my resume the summer before, I realized that it's kind of hard for me to highlight my skills and accomplishments without seeming and feeling like I'm bragging about myself. So during my internship, I would complete tasks that were not necessarily assigned to me, but I just saw a need and I would fulfill it. And I would tell my coworkers that I was working with, but I wouldn't necessarily tell my supervisor because I didn't want to seem like I was trying to push forward my accomplishments. And so near the end of my internship, he was telling me that that's something he would have loved to know, because he was like, you need to market yourself and show me that you're creating value in the company. And my last challenge was actually communication. So communication was something that was an issue before my internship, and it also followed me into my internship. So me and as well of me and some of my coworkers, we actually worked in an open space, but my bosses, their office was just like, it was just their office. And so there was oftentimes we knew they were very busy because we're a team of 10 people and there's a lot more positions in the company than that. So they wear like a lot of different hats. So we didn't want to be the ones to disturb them or give them extra work to do. So we would rather just communicate between each other and then discuss what we could. And so that was an issue I saw with the company. So near the end of my internship, I actually told my supervisor that that was something that like needs to change, as well as like maybe extending the internship in future years to 10 weeks, because there was other trainings that he would have loved to provide, but because my internship was 8 weeks, that wasn't possible. So that was definitely where I included my EPG ability of advocating for change. And so despite the challenges that I experienced, I was still able to acquire certain skills. And I was able to use a lot of different platforms, and such as Webflow, which is a web design platform, which essentially helps you create the framework for websites when we're creating sites for our clients. KW Finder, which helps you to essentially get keywords. And when you search something on Google, it basically goes through websites and finds the words that you're looking for. And so KW Finder helps you to find the words that you can put in your website so that your companies will rank higher on Google search. Because let's be honest, most people don't look past the first page of Google. And lastly, I was able to work with MailChimp, which is that monkey right here. And what we were able to do with that is it's an email marketing platform and also an automation platform. And it also helps us to keep track of how successful our campaigns are. And I was able to use things like Google AdWords, which is kind of like KW Finder, Slack and Asana, and also Adobe Illustrator. And so looking forward with the skills I have, I know for a fact that with these skills, I'm definitely set for the future. I still have a lot to learn, but I know that there's still a lot for me to learn, but I know that I do have the skills now. And so as a result of my internship, I'm actually considering doing a minor in computer science, as well as learning coding languages such as Python, HTML, and CSS. Because in my internship, I realized that yes, marketing, you need to know like the bookwork, and we do teach the bookwork here. However, marketing is a very technical field. So you need to have the technical skills to actually be valuable to a company. And so that was something that definitely stood out to me in my internship. And also, because I procrastinated so much last summer, I was able to actually get the ability to actually start looking for internship now. So I've already started reaching out to certain companies and asking them if they do take interns, what they would require of their interns and such, because I had that experience last summer. And if you remember nothing else that I've said today, one last thing I want to leave you with is that communication is key. Me communicating with Marcus Epps that I needed an internship and that I was struggling was what helped me to actually find an internship. The fact that my internship supervisor communicated to me that dealing with ambiguity and uncertainty was something I need to deal with helped me to mentally prepare for my internship. And my communication with my supervisor was also what almost prevented me from actually securing my internship because we couldn't communicate. And as I'm speaking to you right now, what I'm communicating to you is going to help you in your endeavors, hopefully, but only if you're willing to receive it. Thank you.